I spent 27 years on active duty in the United States Army.
Yo pasé 27 años activo como en el ejército militar de Estados Unidos.
I led combat troops in Korea in 1951 in one of the bloodiest wars we've ever fought.
He luchado en 1951 en combates en una de las guerras más sangrientas en Corea que jamás ha ocurrido.
I gathered intelligence in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam, Cambodia, about what I consider to be the greatest story in the history of the human race.
Sobre lo que yo considero ser la historia más grande, más importante en la vida de la raza humana.
It is not merely the study or the history of the human race, or in the history of the human race. It is really essentially the study, the conclusion of the history of the human race.
Pues no es en sí el estudio, digamos, de la raza humana, sino la conclusión del porqué de la raza humana.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are not alone, and we have never been alone.
Señoras y señores, no estamos solos y no estamos solos.
We have had a history of an intimate interrelationship with advanced extraterrestrial intelligence from the beginning of our human history.
And members of the press, my name is Larry Warren. 20 years ago, in 1980, I was a security specialist assigned to RAF Bentwaters, Woodbridge, NATO Air Force facilities in Suffolk, East Anglia. I had a secret security clearance. I guarded our backline nuclear weapons that were stored there at the time, without the knowledge of the people of Great Britain. I went through a portion of a 3-night UFO event where objects made incursions over our WSA, fired pencil-thin beams of light into them, and adversely affected the ordnance, possibly. These objects were on the ground on 2 different nights. Potentially there was another life form seen. This is an unpopular truth. These events were of extreme defense significance to not only Her Majesty's government, but this government as well, and they are still shrouded in secrecy. They are very complex, they are very vast. This is more about a human rights issue than just a UFO issue. 20 years ago this room would be empty. I see a turn in history. This is history in motion, but unfortunately it's history with the security classification. I would be more than honored to swear under oath that I experienced what I did, I saw what I saw. These events produced not only, after numerous denials by this government, a memo by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, our deputy base commander, which reads like science fiction. It also produced, years later, an on-site audio tape he made as these objects performed their feats and did what they did and violated airspace. These events are of extreme defense significance. I hope my brothers in arms that went through these events will be given immunity at some point and be able to join us here. It is an honor to share the stage with all of these people. And I think for all of our children, my son Dennis, God bless you, son, we can change the world. You're heroes for being here also, and I will testify in front of Congress if asked to. God bless. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Charles I. Holt. In 1991, I retired from the U.S. Air Force as a colonel. I was base commander of 2 large military installations, and at my time of my retirement was Director of Inspections Directorate for the DoD Inspector General. In that capacity, I had inspection oversight of all military services and defense agencies. In 1980, I was the Deputy Base Commander, RAF Bentwaters, the largest twin base complex in East Anglia. At the time, this was the largest tactical fighter wing in the Air Force. In late December 1980, I was called upon to investigate a very strange event, an event that was distracting our security police from their primary duties. Early on the morning of 26 December 1980, our police patrolman discovered strange lights in the forest east of the back gate at RAF Woodbridge. 3 patrolmen were dispatched to investigate. They reported a strange craft, triangular in shape, sitting on 3 legs. The craft was approximately 3 meters on a side. It had multiple lights. It rapidly maneuvered and quickly disappeared. I was not immediately aware of all the details, only being told of strange lights, and I assumed there was a reasonable explanation for this. 2 nights later at the family Christmas party, I was interrupted by the on-duty police commander. He told of strange events and said it was back. Since my boss had to present awards, I was tasked to go out and investigate. I fully expected to find an explanation. I took 2 senior patrolmen with me, a disaster preparedness expert, and the reporting on-duty police officer. At the site we found 3 1.5-inch indentations, triangular in pattern. Now today I have a plaster cast of one of those 3 indentations. And as you can see, it's about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches deep, and about 9 inches across. An interesting point is that the forest floor there was very hard-packed sand. In order to make 3 impressions of this nature, it would have had to have been a very heavy object. We discovered mild radiation and evidence of broken branches on the trees. We suddenly observed a very bright red-orange object. It was oval and with a black center. It reminded me of an eye, and it appeared to be winking or blinking. It maneuvered horizontally through the trees with an occasional vertical movement. When approached, it receded and silently broke into 5 white objects. We moved out of the forest and onto a pasture and observed several objects in the sky, multiple objects to the north. They changed shape from elliptical to round. Several other objects were seen to the south. One approached at a very high speed and sent down a strange beam right at our feet. It was different than an ordinary light, and it didn't radiate. It was more like a laser beam. Another object sent down beams of light into the weapons storage area. The whole time we had difficulty communicating with the base, as all 3 radio frequencies that we were using kept breaking up. This activity continued for about an hour. During this entire event, I was fortunate to have with me my small pocket recorder. It's a little linear recorder that I carried around the base, usually to take notes because I didn't like to write much. So I recorded all the significant events that happened that night. Unfortunately, the tape recorder is no longer functional, but I do have a tape and a good copy of it. I have no idea what we saw that night, but I do know with great certainty it was under intelligent control. I thank you for your attention and will be available for questions after.
Por un periodo de tiempo muy largo.
They, or whoever they were deeply interested in us and have been observing us and studying us for a tremendous amount of time, hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Ellos, quien sea que fueran, han estado muy interesados por un tiempo larguísimo, de 100 o tal vez miles de años, y nos estaban observando e investigando.
The study concluded that if they had been hostile or malevolent, there was absolutely nothing we could do.
Pues el estudio concluyó de que si estos eran absolutamente hostiles o malévolos, realmente no hubiéramos podido hacer nada contra ellos.
The study, titled An Assessment, also concluded that some kind of a program was underway.
Este estudio, que se llamaba The Assessment o la evaluación, concluyó que había un programa que realmente estaba en proceso.
Even today, we still don't know what that program is all about.
Y aún hoy en día todavía no se sabe de qué trata este programa.